One night, a mother killed her 3 innocent children with her own hands. From the outside, this looked like the perfect family. A beautiful home, a loving husband, 3 adorable kids. But inside her mind, something was quietly breaking apart. And that night, it shattered into a tragedy no one saw coming. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Who Was, the channel where we bring you the world's most talked about, most chilling true crime stories. I'm your host, Adam. Today's story is a little different. This isn't about a serial killer. This is about a mother who loved her children deeply, and yet one day, that same mother became the reason her 3 young kids died. The question everyone keeps asking is, why? Was this a calculated, premeditated act? Or did her mental health collapse so completely that she had no idea what she was doing? This is the story of Lindsay Clancy. If you follow true crime, you've probably heard the name. This case is still making headlines across America right now. So let's start from the beginning. If this is your first time here, please hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. Now, let's get into the story. Lindsay Clancy was from Massachusetts. She wasn't strange or unusual in any way. She was completely ordinary, hardworking, and caring. Lindsay worked as a labor and delivery nurse, meaning she helped mothers bring new babies into the world at the hospital. Think about that for a second. A woman who spent her career helping other people's babies arrive safely into the world would one day end her own children's lives. That irony is what makes this story so hard to sit with. Lindsay was genuinely good at her job. Her colleagues remembered her as kind, caring, and professional. The kind of person who stayed up all night comforting new, frightened parents. On paper, her life looked stable. A good job, a nice home, and the kind of family life she'd always wanted. She met Patrick Clancy, and the two fell in love. Before long, they got married and built a beautiful home together in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Duxbury is a peaceful, small coastal town, the kind of place people move to for a quiet life, where crime is rarely even talked about. That's where Lindsay and Patrick started their family. As time went on, their home filled with joy. First came their daughter Cora, then their son Dawson, and a few years later, their youngest son Callan. 3 kids, a lovely home, and 2 parents who seemed ready to do anything for their children. To friends and family, they looked like the picture-perfect family. But as we so often see in true crime, what looks perfect from the outside can be hiding something no one else can see. Lindsay's first 2 pregnancies hadn't caused any major issues, but after her 3rd child, Callan, was born, something slowly started to shift. The change was so gradual that at first no one really noticed. It's completely normal for a new mother to feel exhausted, sleep-deprived, and overwhelmed. So when Lindsay started struggling, everyone assumed it was just the usual new mom stress, nothing to worry about. But that normal struggle was about to take a much darker turn. And that's where the real, painful part of this story begins. After Callan was born, in September 2022, Lindsay started thinking about going back to work. Anxiety crept in. Could she really handle her nursing job along with 3 kids? These questions kept circling in her head, and slowly, they stopped being simple worries and became a serious mental health crisis. Lindsay decided to get help and saw a doctor. She was prescribed Zoloft, an antidepressant commonly used for anxiety and depression. At first, she hoped it would help, that she'd finally sleep better, feel better. But that's not what happened. Her Zoloft dose was increased from 25 milligrams to 50 milligrams. And soon after, strange symptoms began. She went nearly 2 days without sleep. Racing thoughts started taking over her mind, thoughts moving so fast, so relentlessly, that she couldn't control them. She told her doctor she felt awful. The Zoloft was stopped, but that only opened the door to a new cycle. Doctors started her on Ativan and Benadryl to help her sleep. A few weeks later, Lindsay went to the emergency room herself because she couldn't sleep and her anxiety had spiraled out of control. From there, she was given even more medications: Trazodone, then Prozac, then Ambien, Remeron, Klonopin. Every new doctor, every new visit added something new to the list. This pattern spiraled so badly that between September 2022 and January 2023, just 4 months, Lindsay received more than 30 prescriptions: Zoloft, Prozac, Trazodone, Seroquel, amitriptyline, Remeron, Valium, Klonopin, Ativan, Lamictal, a total of 13 different medications. Antidepressants, antipsychotics, sedatives, benzodiazepines, mood stabilizers, all in one person's body, all at once. And here's the question that sits at the heart of this entire case. Was it ever safe to give one person that many medications at once? Did any single doctor step back and see the full picture of what Lindsay was being prescribed? Or was every doctor just treating their own small piece of the puzzle with no idea what the others were doing? Patrick, Lindsay's husband, later said he'd gone to her doctor himself, begging for help, saying, "Please, you're turning her into a zombie." That wasn't just a dramatic line. It was exactly what was happening. A once vibrant, caring mother was slowly losing herself under the weight of medication. And still, no one could have guessed where all of this was heading. When someone is falling apart mentally, they don't always scream for help. Sometimes they go silent instead. That's exactly what was happening to Lindsay. On the outside, she kept trying to look normal in front of her family, co-workers, and friends. But inside, she was falling apart. In a conversation with a friend, Lindsay admitted that her medications were giving her dark thoughts. That was an incredibly alarming sign, but at the time, no one fully grasped how serious it was. Lindsay never said she wanted to hurt herself or her children, just that something dark was creeping into her mind. Patrick's father, Christopher, also noticed Lindsay sometimes seemed nervous or distant. At one point, he and his wife offered to take the kids overnight so Lindsay and Patrick could get some rest. Lindsay turned the offer down.
Going back to Thanksgiving of 2022, when you were interacting with Lindsay, I think you previously said that her demeanor was good, she was quiet. Did you also say at one point she had a little blankness to her at times?
She seemed to at times.
And can you tell us what that was?
Just like a stare.
Kind of staring off into the distance, distracted?
No, just not totally interacting, just sort of.
Okay. So at some points.
Almost like nervous, kind of like.
Nerves.
Almost just like, something like that.
In terms of your interaction with Lindsay and Patrick and the kids, while there were some struggles going on, did you and your wife offer to take the kids to your house overnight to kind of give them a break?
I did mention that to my son.
And was that offer declined?
Yes.
Looking back now, it's one of those heartbreaking what-if moments. What if she had said yes? Would the story have ended differently? School teachers, doctors, close friends, everyone described Lindsay as caring, capable, and clearly devoted to her children. No one imagined she could ever hurt them. It was exactly like someone drowning on the inside while smiling on the outside. This is an important point to understand. Postpartum mental health struggles often look exactly like this: hidden, silent, and invisible from the outside. Lindsay kept seeing doctors, kept going to therapy sessions, but somehow, the true depth of what she was going through never seemed to fully register with anyone. One therapist later testified at trial that in December 2022, Lindsay denied having suicidal thoughts, but admitted she felt hopeless and was close to having them. In early January 2023, Lindsay was even taken to the hospital, where she said she wanted to die, but she also said she had no plan and made no mention of wanting to hurt anyone else. These were warning bells ringing in the background, but no one fully understood how dangerous the situation had become. And then came the night that changed everything. It was the evening of January 24th, 2023, the same beautiful, peaceful home in Duxbury where Lindsay, Patrick, and their 3 kids lived. From the outside, everything seemed completely normal. Patrick was going about his usual evening, and at some point, he decided to grab takeout for dinner. Patrick left the house to pick up food and some medications. he had no idea that within just 20 minutes, his entire life would be changed forever. He got in his car, drove to a CVS store, picked up a few things, and headed back home. This entire timeline was later captured on CCTV footage, evidence that would become crucial in the trial. When Patrick got home, he was met with a scene no human being should ever have to witness. He found his wife Lindsay outside the house, badly injured. She had jumped from a second-floor window. Patrick immediately called 911 at 6:10 p.m. When emergency responders entered the home, what they found is almost impossible to put into words. All three of the couple's young children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and just 8-month-old Callan, were found unresponsive inside the house, with visible signs of trauma. According to prosecutors, Lindsay had strangled all 3 children using exercise resistance bands. Cora and Dawson were rushed to the hospital, where they were pronounced dead. Baby Callan was still alive and was rushed to Boston Children's Hospital, where doctors fought to save him. But 3 days later, on January 27, 2023, Callan died as well. 3 innocent lives, lives that had barely begun, were gone in a single night. Harming her children wasn't the only thing that happened that night. As prosecutors later told the court, Lindsay had also tried to end her own life. After the children were killed, she threw herself from a second-floor window of the house. The fall was severe enough to cause a serious spinal injury. As a result, Lindsay became paralyzed from the chest down, permanently. Whatever happened that night didn't just end her children's lives. It also completely changed the rest of hers. She would never walk again. After the fall, Lindsay was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. She was later transferred to Duxbury State Hospital, where she remained under medical care for a long time, along with tight security. The court ruled she posed a serious risk of imminent self-harm and needed to stay at the hospital. For several months, Lindsay couldn't even appear in court in person because of her ongoing treatment. In October, she was arraigned via video link from Duxbury Hospital, formally charged with 3 counts of murder and strangulation. She entered a not guilty plea. From this point on, Lindsay Clancy's case stopped being just a local tragedy. It became national news across America. People kept asking, was this a calculated, premeditated killing, or the story of a mother who fell so deep into mental illness that she lost the ability to even recognize what she was doing to her own children? Alongside that, another question started to build. Were her doctors partly to blame? Was overprescribing her all these medications actually the root cause of this tragedy? That question would go on to become one of the biggest parts of this entire case in the months and years that followed. When Lindsay Clancy's case formally went to trial, 2 completely opposite stories emerged in court. On one side were the Plymouth County prosecutors, trying to prove that Lindsay had deliberately planned to kill her children. On the other side was her attorney, Kevin Reddington, arguing that Lindsay was far too mentally ill to be held criminally responsible. Prosecutors claimed Lindsay had carefully planned the entire act. According to them, she used Apple Maps to calculate exactly how long it would take Patrick to pick up the food, giving herself enough time to kill all 3 children before he returned. Prosecutor Jennifer Sprague told the court that Lindsay acted with deliberate premeditation and extreme atrocity and cruelty. On the other hand, defense attorney Reddington argued that Lindsay wasn't in her right mind at all that night. According to him, Lindsay was suffering from postpartum psychosis, a severe mental illness that can affect some women after childbirth, making it difficult to distinguish reality from delusion. Reddington told the court, "You have to ask yourself why this troubled soul did what she did." The defense also argued that doctors had massively over-medicated Lindsay, to the point where her brain chemistry had been completely thrown off balance. Their claim was that Lindsay was over-medicated, that she had far more medication in her system than any one person should have, and it had altered how her brain was functioning. This argument is known legally as lack of criminal responsibility, or an insanity defense, meaning the defendant claims they weren't mentally capable of understanding their actions at the time of the crime. These two stories couldn't have been more different. On one side, a cold-blooded planner. On the other, a troubled soul who became a victim of her own mental illness. For the jury, deciding where the truth actually lay was never going to be easy. This case also reignited a much bigger conversation across America about postpartum mental illness and the justice system. People started drawing comparisons to older cases, like that of Andrea Yates, another mother who killed her children during a bout of postpartum psychosis. Everyone was asking, would Lindsay Clancy's case end the same way, or take a completely different path? Lindsay Clancy's trial was postponed multiple times. First, it was set for December 2025, then January 2026, and finally, in July 2026, the trial officially began at Plymouth Superior Court. Think about that. More than 3 years had passed since that night, and only now was Lindsay finally facing trial. Even getting to trial came with challenges. Because Lindsay was paralyzed from the chest down, she had to be transported by medical van from Duxbury to Plymouth every single day. Her attorney warned the court that if her medical needs weren't properly met, her life could genuinely be at risk. When the trial began, Lindsay's ex-husband, Patrick Clancy, took the stand as a witness. He described how her condition had steadily worsened over time. He recalled Lindsay telling him the medication would help her anxiety and let her return to work, but instead, she just kept getting more and more depressed. The court also heard that Lindsay hadn't actually taken all of her prescribed medications. Prosecutors showed evidence that she had only taken 7 Zoloft pills and 6 Ativan pills, with plenty left in the bottles. This detail was used to challenge the defense's over-medication argument, prosecutors' logic being, if she wasn't even taking most of what she was prescribed, how medicated could she really have been? Throughout the trial, Lindsay sat in the courtroom, and whenever detailed, painful testimony about her children came up, she would break down, sobbing. When one doctor described the injuries found on Cora's neck during the autopsy, Lindsay became inconsolable. For everyone in that courtroom, these moments were almost unbearable to witness. On the other side, state police investigators revealed they had looked into a theory that a psychologist may have coached Lindsay to claim she was hearing voices, but investigators found no evidence to support that theory. This detail alone shows just how complicated this case has become. The line between truth and manipulation was proving incredibly difficult to draw. There's another major layer to this case worth understanding. Alongside the criminal trial, Lindsay Clancy's family has also filed a separate civil lawsuit against her doctors. The lawsuit claims that if her condition had been properly recognized and treated from the start, this tragedy might never have happened at all. According to the lawsuit, warning signs may have appeared years earlier, after the birth of her second child, Dawson, in 2020. Her then-husband Patrick reportedly noticed several days of unusual behavior, Lindsay obsessively cleaning, throwing things away, having racing thoughts, feeling unusually energetic, and describing herself as feeling amazingly on top of things. These can be classic symptoms of mania, often linked to bipolar disorder. The lawsuit claims that even back then, no doctor picked up on it. This suggests that Lindsay may have been living with undiagnosed bipolar disorder for years, without anyone, including herself, knowing it. So when her condition worsened after her third child, doctors may have simply been treating new symptoms as they appeared, without ever connecting them to a bigger underlying picture, a mistake that may have made everything far worse. The trial also revealed that Lindsay's care was split across multiple different doctors. One prescribed Zoloft, another Ativan, another Prozac, and so on, often with little to no communication between them. The defense calls this polypharmacy, a chaotic mix of medications from disconnected doctors, and argues it's what ultimately caused Lindsay's mental collapse. This question remains open even today. If Lindsay's treatment had been properly coordinated under a single doctor's care, could this tragedy have been prevented? Did the medical system fail to give this mother the help she desperately needed? This isn't just a question about Lindsay Clancy. It's a question that matters for every mother going through postpartum depression or psychosis without getting the right support at the right time. The jury now has to decide whether Lindsay was capable of understanding her actions at the time of the crime. That decision won't just determine her future, it will shape how the legal system views mental illness for years to come. As we're putting together this episode, August 2026, Lindsay Clancy's trial is still actively underway at Plymouth Superior Court. The jury has not yet reached a verdict. New testimony keeps coming out week after week, new details keep surfacing, and the entire country is watching this case closely. The judge has repeatedly reminded the jury that their decision must be based purely on evidence, not sympathy, anger, or emotion. That's easy to say, but incredibly hard to do when you're sitting in a courtroom watching a mother break down while listening to her children's autopsy reports. Digital evidence, like Patrick's CVS visit caught on CCTV, their text message history, and Lindsay's own personal journal, has played a massive role in this trial. Lindsay kept a daily journal documenting her mental health and how each medication was affecting her. That journal has now become a key piece of evidence, sometimes working in her favor, sometimes against her. Attorneys who represented other well-known postpartum psychosis cases have also weighed in on this trial. Lawyers connected to the Andrea Yates and Cheryl Massip cases have said Lindsay is not a criminal, but rather someone who suffered a severe mental health crisis. They argue that if the jury bases its decision purely on how horrific the crime was, without fully considering her mental state, that wouldn't be true justice. On the other side, prosecutors are standing firm, insisting that Lindsay planned this out, calculated the timing, and killed her children in a deliberate act. According to them, Lindsay was simply selfish and fully understood what she was doing. Whatever the final verdict, guilty or not guilty by reason of insanity, it won't just determine the rest of Lindsay Clancy's life. It could reshape how America thinks about the connection between postpartum mental illness and criminal responsibility for years to come. When the jury finally delivers its verdict, it's going to dominate headlines across the country. This has been the story of Lindsay Clancy, a mother who once loved children so deeply that she spent her career helping bring them safely into the world, and then, one night, became part of a tragedy that's still almost impossible to fully understand. This story leaves us with an important reminder. Mental health, especially postpartum mental health, should never be taken lightly. If someone around you has just become a new parent and seems to be struggling, check in on them. Talk to them. Sometimes the deepest pain hides behind the quietest silence. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another true crime story. Let us know in the comments, what do you think the outcome of this case will be? I'm Adam, and I'll see you in the next episode with another story. Until then, take care of yourselves.